So, what's going on with Unity? Why are people upset? Unity is going to change their pricing model starting next year. Most indie developers will be unaffected, but those who it does affect will be impacted pretty negatively. Unity used to have a subscription requirement if you made over $100,000 a year, promoting their non-royalty business model. But now they are going to implement a new model in only 3.5 months that is far more confusing and unfair and retroactively applies to games already shipped. So this new fee kicks in for most people after they make $200,000 and after their first 200,000 installs. It adds the Unity runtime fee, a flat fee of 20 cents per install. Yeah, per install, not per sale, not a royalty like Unreal Engine's 5%. The royalty model is so ingenious, in my opinion, because it allows for software to establish a massive developer base and foster a community. Developers can learn and refine their skills for years before making any money without having to pay for an expensive subscription. An expensive subscription like for Adobe, Autodesk, or Maxon products. When developers finally do earn revenue, the engine maker gets a proportional cut. So, per install, okay, how are those installs counted? Unity says it's using a system that is one based off of their ads or whatever. They claim it's fairly accurate, but sounds like they don't even fully know themselves. Okay, what about illicit or pirated copies? Well, Unity says that if users have concerns, they can submit them to their fraud compliance team, which isn't at all reassuring. So this new model is particularly problematic because many games on Unity are free to play, or at least free to start. This is especially true in mobile gaming. There's a concept called LTV, or lifetime value per player. On many of these free games with massive install bases, the lifetime value per player can actually be close to or less than 20 cents average, but the game is sustained by players who pay into the ecosystem, essentially subsidizing the other players. Unity's new fee means this business model, or makes this business model unsustainable for many, if not most, of the games that operate this way. Since I know my audience, you're probably already asking the question, how does this affect VRChat? VRChat, like many of these mobile games, is free to play. They now offer a $10 a month subscription, which the vast majority of players, myself included, do not have. So they did release a statement earlier today saying that it's not going anywhere because of the VRChat Plus supporters, in part anyway. But I find this kind of funny because, in a way, this situation reminds me a bit of the Easy anti-cheat announcement last year, which I was going to make a video about and then never did because I was super concerned about accuracy and wanted to go way too in depth. Anyway, I felt EAC was unnecessary, unwarranted, and not all that great of a solution. It destroyed an active open source modding community. VRChat had to then scramble to add accessibility features that had been left on the back burner for years that they never even told us about. I find it hypocritical because VRChat advertises so much creative potential and freedom on its platform. Just don't you dare touch that client. The modding community was actively staying out of the way of VRC Plus, removing mods that implemented the same features. At the end of the day, user base really couldn't do much besides just protest. VRChat has a monopoly on social VR, and like a social media site, it's a natural monopoly because all the people and content are going to be and stay there because all the people and content are already there. Now, here's the thing. Powerful companies and people can screw over as many poor people as they want without repercussions. But the moment they start to mess with rich people, they start to face consequences. And Unity is about to mess with a bunch of rich people, because AAA publishers rely on this engine too. And unlike VRChat, Unity doesn't have a complete monopoly. They are the largest game engine by developers and games made with it, especially in mobile and VR, but there are still plenty of others. Unreal and Godot have been getting more interest lately, and those aren't even the only alternatives. For those curious, it's impossible for VRChat to be ported to a different engine. It'd basically be impossible for it to be ported to one of Unity's own scriptable render pipelines, from my understanding. So VRChat is stuck with Unity, just like we're stuck with easy anti-cheat, except the latter could be easily removed. However, other developers and publishers are not stuck with Unity, and a lot of them have committed to not use this engine in the future, even if Unity reverses this new pricing. Here's Landfall Games saying that, creators of Totally Accurate Battle Simulator and Stick Fight. Here is Megacrit of Slay the Spire, Rose City of The World Next Door. We have Massive Monster of Cult of the Lamb, and Aggro Crab, one of the most popular vocal critics, and Inner Sloth of the hit game Among Us. There are many, 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 many other developers and individuals who are putting out a ton of statements on Twitter right now. It's almost across the board negative perception of Unity, which I think is warranted. Okay, so simply the fact that Unity can implement those changes retroactively is a massive problem. Unity says it's not retroactive. Yeah, well, the thing is, it is retroactive in how it applies to games that have already been released, or games that started development under a different end user license agreement. Users can't reject the new EULA. Unreal allows developers to do this as long as they stick with a version of Unreal under a different EULA. And over the last few years, developing with Unreal has gotten significantly better, not worse, with no royalties until your first $1 million, and the inclusion of features for free like the Quixel Megascans asset library. Whenever Unity acquires a tech company like SpeedTree, usually developers don't see much or any benefit, and they certainly don't get that feature set for free. Even if Unity reverses this, it already broke the trust of so many developers and publishers. The fact that they can make these changes at any time and apply them retroactively is deeply concerning. To add insult to injury, Unity has a lot of developers and industries by the balls, like live service games made with the engine and those made for mobile and VR, so essentially VRChat. But in my opinion, it was a mistake for Unity to become the only game engine that has been continuously supported for VR. Meta doesn't update their tools for Unreal nearly as often as they do for Unity. So, what's the way forward? Well, these new changes make it difficult for a ton of developers to keep recommending Unity. It's a shame because there's a lot to like about the engine. The management has just been awful, especially since their IPO. Unreal and Godot are the two most obvious alternatives. Godot 4, which released earlier this year, actually completely revised its rendering engine and looks better than Unity out of the box. Like, both of these right here are not light maps. They are real-time global illumination solutions. And you can even use light maps on top of that. All right, Unity built-in doesn't offer something like this. You don't have to invest all your time and effort into one engine. You can try out different ones, and I encourage everyone to do so. Over the past couple months, I've been learning Unity more and more for game development, and not just specifically for VRChat. My plan for years was to eventually make games and then move to a different engine, mostly eyeing Unreal and Godot a bit. This new Unity announcement makes me not want to create future games on it. I have so many frustrations with the idiosyncrasies of the engine. Some of the best aspects about it aren't inherent to the engine itself, that being the huge asset store, massive community, and a wealth of tutorials and educational content. The reason Unity has seen all of these things is because it was the first big game engine to truly democratize game development. That's part of the reason why seeing Unity making all these poor decisions is so disheartening. It strayed so far from its roots. It's easy to hate on Unity because it's the biggest game engine, but now that Unity seems to despise its greatest asset, its community, the criticisms of the software itself are probably going to get even more poignant. So, if you want to learn game development and don't have any specific reasons to use Unity, there's never been a better time to try a different engine. Many of them are free to start, and many of them have a bunch of great tutorials. Even if you don't continue using the engine, you'll still learn a different paradigm of game development. As for this channel, I still plan on making more Unity and VR chat tutorials, for the time being anyway. By the way, I make them on Patreon. I post new tutorials there every month. If you're interested, you can donate. Okay, but for real, long term, I kind of figured I'd pivot this channel from a VR chat focus to a more general game development focus, but we'll see how it all pans out. So, what do you think? Voice your opinion in the comments below. Like this video if you liked it, and subscribe if you want to see more. Till next time.